Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette that we're using. So I have that linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just download the file, open it up, and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video. So take a second to go and do that, and then come back and we will get started. Okay, so first things first, we will go over the canvas dimensions. They are 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi. The color profile that we're on, I am using the second color profile on the RGB list. And for our layers, by the end of the video, we need about 10 to 12 layers, so make sure you have that many available by checking here. If you do not, you can always lower the DPI here to get some more layers. And this is what our color palette looks like, so we will just go ahead and get right into it. So first we're going to go to our layer menu, click on this background color layer, click on the first color on our color palette, this gray color, to fill in the background. Next, we are going to make sure we are on layer 1 here. We are going to go to our color palette and grab the second color on the top row, this white color, and we are going to make our Polaroid outline. So we are going to grab the selection tool, turn it to a rectangle, and turn on color fill. And then we are just going to start somewhere in the upper left corner here, and I'm going to drag and make a long rectangle shape about like this. We want to leave a good amount of room kind of all the way around. We'll add a shadow to it and stuff, so we'll need some more room on the bottom. We can move it in a second here, but while we are still on this layer, click on the selection tool to deselect that first shape and then click it again. Turn off color fill this time, but leave it on rectangle, and then starting in the upper left corner of our Polaroid here, make a new selection and make it a kind of more of a square shape in the upper section so that there's more room on the bottom here. And then click on the arrow tool, and I'm just going to drag that off the page, and then click on the arrow tool again to deselect it. And now we have a Polaroid shape. So it should look something like this. Then we're going to click on the arrow tool again to select our shape here. Turn on snapping and magnetics, and we are going to snap it to the center of the screen. You can make sure that you see the yellow vertical line here so that it's centered left to right, and you can also center it top to bottom if you'd like. But it for sure needs to be centered left to right. Okay, and then we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer, select the bottom one, and we are going to grab our fourth color on the top row here on our color palette, this darker gray color, and we're going to drag that and fill it in. You can't see it because it's the bottom shape, and we have this white one on top, but you can see it on your layer menu here that this one is now a different color. Grab the arrow tool with this layer selected, and we are going to move it down and to the left just a little bit. And then we are going to click on the wand tool, click on Gaussian blur layer, and we are going to drag that to maybe 10%. And it's okay that we can see this edge here. We are going to cover that up in just a second. But now we are going to go back to the layer menu, click on the N on this layer and drag it up to multiply. That just makes it darker and gives it more of a shadow effect. So now we have this nice shadow under our Polaroid. So next, let's add a new layer, and we're going to do it above our shadow layer, below our white Polaroid layer. Click on our color palette and select the first color on the second row. Click on the selection tool, rectangle selected, and then turn on color fill again. And just starting in the upper left corner behind this white area, we're just going to draw a shape to just cover in that whole square that we cut out. So that'll kind of fill in this whole background here. Okay. Go to your layer menu, add a new layer on top of this one, and now we are going to start adding our hills. So let's grab the second color on the second row. And for our brush, we are going to use the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We'll have it set to maybe 70 to 80%. And we are just going to start on a back hill. So to kind of give the layout, we're going to have a sun kind of in the middle here, 2 big hills, and then 1 smaller hill in the front. So I'm going to start on this right side hill. So I'm going to start on the right side of the page here underneath the white part, not going outside of the white, and maybe, a third of the way down on our section here. And I'm just going to draw an arcing shape. And I'm going to hold it down so it turns into like a perfectly smooth shape. And then I'm going to click edit shape, and it's a little too like tall. So I'm just going to kind of adjust it there, but just to give it a nice little hill shape like this. Then I'm going to click my pen tool again, and we are just going to kind of connect it behind this Polaroid shape so that we can fill it in like this. Then we're going to add a new layer on top of this one, grab the third color on the second row, and do the same thing on the left side now. So again, starting about a third of the way down of our square here, make a shape, kind of hold it so that it turns into a perfect shape. I'm going to click edit and just adjust it a little bit. And then grab the brush tool and again connect it behind the Polaroid and fill it in. And then we're going to add a new layer above this one, grab the fourth color on the last row, or on the second row, same brush, and now we're going to make a hill in the front that's going to have 2 bumps on it. I'm going to start on the left side here about a quarter of the way up, and then you kind of want to draw kind of quickly to get it some nice smooth lines. So just kind of quickly try to make a good shape that you like in the front. And I kind of like this one. I did go off the page, but that's okay. I can erase that. So I like the way this one turned out. I will connect it on the back side here, fill it in, and then I'll just use my eraser to get rid of that little bit that was on the outside. So now I have all the hills done. So since we have the hills done, we can now make our sun, because we want to place it right in the crevice of our 2 hills in the back here. So let's add a new layer on the layer menu, drag it below our hill layers above this like sky layer that we created. And then we are going to grab the third color on the top row, same monoline brush. We are going to make a perfect circle. So we are going to draw a circular shape behind the hill here. Hold your pen down so it turns into a perfect shape, and then touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. And then you can resize it and move it around. If you click edit shape at the top. So we will kind of move it right in the crevice here and then fill that in just like that. Okay, so now we're going to add some texture to our hills. So we are going to add a new layer on top of all of our hill layers underneath our Polaroid layer there. Switch our color to the fourth color on the top row, and same brush. And we are just going to start drawing some little oval shapes and little dots kind of along our hillside here, just kind of scattered randomly. And I know they look weird right now because they are gray, but we will change that in just a second. Just like that. And now we will go to our layer menu, and on this layer we will click on the N here, drag it up to multiply so that it gives a nice shadow everywhere we drew those gray dots. So now we are going to draw our trees. So let's add a new layer here, and we want it to be above our little stuff that we just drew on the ground. And we are going to grab this first color on the last row, and we are going to draw these trees as just an oval shape, a vertical oval. So let's just go ahead and start, and you can just kind of place them wherever. You can kind of change up their size and shape a little bit as you go. If you're having trouble getting them to look perfectly like up and down, you can touch your finger to the screen and it'll help straighten them out. Okay, so I did a total of 9 of them. That's just kind of how it worked out for me. Go ahead and add them wherever you would like and space them out however you see fit. On that same layer, we are going to add the tree trunks. So we are going to grab the second color on the last row, this dark black, and we are going to grab the brush pen under the calligraphy tab as well. And we have the size set to about 5%. And we are just going to start in the middle of each oval, draw a straight up and down line, hold it down, and then touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. And then after that part is done, I'm just going to add a few little kind of wispies coming off of it on each side like this. So we're going to do that for each tree. And like this one is pretty far to the left and down a little bit, so I'm going to click edit shape and just kind of recenter it, so you can do that if you need to as well. Just like that. If you feel like moving any of them around while you're on this layer, you can click the selection tool, turn on freehand, make sure color fill is turned off. And for example, these two are kind of close together, so maybe I will select this one, go around it, click the arrow tool, and then I can move it if I want to. So feel free to move them around a little bit if you'd like, or add some more if you feel like you need more. And then we will move on. So the next thing that we're going to do is add a nice texture layer over this entire section. So what I want to do is I want to add a new layer above all of our layers here. Go to our color palette, select the second color on the top row, the white. And then under our brushes, we're going to go into the texture category under the grunge brush. Set it to maybe 60%. And we are going to very lightly go over this entire section. Everything that's in the square. Kind of make it thicker in some areas if you would like, thinner in others. And obviously it's okay if you go onto the Polaroid because it's also white, so it won't really change the look of that. If you go too far outside, like out here, you can go in and erase it. So after you're done with that, you can use the selection tool, switch it to rectangle, make sure color fill is turned off, and you could go around and just kind of select these areas right outside of the Polaroid, just in case you got any of this white shadowy color there. And then you could click the arrow tool and then drag that all off the page if you need to. So if you see anything out there, you can either erase it or select it and drag it off like that to get rid of it. But I'm gonna leave this layer now as is. I think it looks good, added a nice bit of texture. Okay, and then we are going to go back to our layer menu, and on this layer that we just created, we're going to click the N on this layer, and this time we are going to slide up and change it to overlay. So that kind of adds a nice, instead of it just being white, it adds more of a lighter color based on what it's covering. And then the last thing that we're going to do for our drawing is add some clouds. And they are going to be kind of looking 3D as if they're hovering off of our Polaroid. So we are going to add them on top of our Polaroid layer, the white layer. So add a new layer there. And we're going to use our same white color. So the second one on the top row, we are going to switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And we are going to make some clouds. So we're going to start with a perfectly horizontal straight line on the bottom. So draw a straight line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. And then we're going to draw some curvy shapes on the top to kind of connect it from left to right to finish the cloud shape, and then fill that in all the way around. So that's one cloud. And I kind of like to, go off the edge here a little bit. So part of it's on, part of it's off. We're going to make another one here, maybe a smaller one. But again, touch your finger to the screen to make sure this bottom line is perfectly horizontal. And then let's add some curves to the top. And then fill it in. And then we'll do one last one up here. So let's do another perfectly horizontal line. And again, we'll have it go off the page on the left. And then make it like so. And then fill it in. And you can fill it in by using the color dropper or just fill it in with your brush. Perfect, so that is our first cloud layer. Now we're gonna add a shadow to make them look 3D. So let's go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this cloud layer that we just made. Select the bottom one. And then let's go back to our fourth color on the top row that we've been using for our shadows. And you're just gonna drag and drop on each of them. You won't be able to see them because they are behind our white cloud layer. But if you go to the layer menu, you should see that this one is now a little bit of a different color. So click the arrow tool, drag it down and to the left a little bit. And then we are going to click on the wand tool, Gaussian blur layer, drag that to maybe 8% or so, 7 or 8%, somewhere in there. And then lastly, go back to our layer menu, click on the N on this layer, and drag it up to multiply so that it looks more like a shadow on everything. So that is it for our drawing today. I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials. And if you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, please do so and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks so much for watching.